Okay, well done everybody. For some of us in the room, this is day 3, right? So well done for continuing on and surviving into the final day of this year's BAFA conference. We had, when we were putting together the schedule, we had actually, I need to make an announcement before I introduce this session. Just so an announcement about a session at lunchtime. One of our sponsors, CPA Australia, are doing a session in the JCC back in the main building for the conference in the auditorium. So the auditorium's the room behind the reception desk. So they're doing an introduction into CPA Australia and how to get accreditation and examinations and so on. And that's going to be at lunchtime. They'll start about 1:30. So just to let everybody know about that, if you've got some time, or if it's of interest to you, go and get some lunch quickly and then head into the auditorium in the JCC. So in terms of this session, we had a little bit of time when we were doing the schedule, and we talked actually, particularly for the British Academy, for a number of years. We've had a relationship that I'm sure Ken will talk a bit more about, and saying we want to actually raise the profile amongst our community, amongst the association, of the relationship with the British Academy and the funding there, and also at the same time, over the last, I'm not sure how long, is it six months or so, myself and Steve have been contacted by Matthew Tilling, who's here in the audience from UKEB. And it was an opportunity for us to actually bring those two parts together. So in essence, what we've titled this session as Funding and Impact. So we've got the funding coming from the British Academy and potential impact, particularly for those who are doing financial reporting research in terms of engaging with practice in the form of the UKEB. So that's how that's the idea behind the session. What we've got is, I'm delighted we've got Ken Emond from the British Academy. He's the head of research funding at the BA. Some of you know, hopefully most of you know, that the British Academy and Leverhulme have a small grant scheme that runs twice a year up to £10,000. And over the last 4 or 5 years, I think it is now, BAFA has sponsored one of those awards each year. And this is particularly prescient, although we didn't line them up exactly like this, but when you consider the discussion that we had yesterday about the sustainability of research in our community, and particularly the points that Gloria made, actually funding here this is a source of funding that I know a number of accounting academics, not just in terms of the BAFA sponsored ones, but actually others as well, have got this grant, and it has allowed, particularly if you're doing kind of qualitative research and you need to go out into the field and do interviews and get transcriptions, that funding works very well. So we've got Ken, and Ken's going to speak first for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then we're going to hand over to the UK Endorsement Board. The UK Endorsement Board is a relatively new organisation. I'm not going to go into why it's come into existence. Okay, right. We have, but the UKEB influences and endorses and adopts new or amended IASs, IFRSs for UK companies. We have Seema Jamil-O'Neill, who's online and is going to present an overview. And in the room, we have Matthew Tilling. And if some of you are thinking, why do I know that name, or that name's familiar? Those of you who have done research around social enterprises, corporate governance, and so on, and in particular will be familiar with Matthew's work with Carol Tilt and the 2010 paper that was in AAAJ about the edge of legitimacy, the Rothmans case. So that's the Matthew Tilling that we're talking about. So Matthew's got a very clear idea what it's like to be an academic and the pressures that we're under, as well as being involved with practice. So that's the introductions. We're 10 or 15 minutes for Ken, and similar for Seema, and then after both presentations, we'll throw it out to the floor for discussions and questions. So Ken, over to you.
Thank you very much, Stuart, and thank you to all of you. It is real pleasure for me to be here today, to be able to speak to you a little bit about the work of the British Academy, and in particular, as Stuart just said, to highlight to you some of the funding opportunities that the British Academy offers. For those of you who don't know about us very well, the British Academy is the UK's National Academy for Humanities and Social Sciences, and we work very closely with the other national academies, the Royal Society, Royal Academy of Engineering, and the Academy of Medical Sciences. And we very much believe in investing in research and projects across the UK and overseas, and in encouraging understanding of what the benefits of the social sciences, humanities, and the arts for the public and the economy can deliver in answering many of today's complex challenges. I don't have much time at all, and I want to focus on funding. That's my area of work within the Academy. But I do want to highlight to you that the Academy has a much broader range of activities, including in our current programme. I particularly want to highlight in this setting our work as part of the Future of the Corporation programme. Those of you who may have seen our reports that have been delivered on the future of the corporation, it's been a fantastic programme led by Professor Colin Mayer, and it has delivered a whole series of policy reports and activities and programmes. So do look out for that on our website. The Academy is a fellowship organisation. We have over 1,300 fellows of the British Academy elected for their academic excellence. We have a range of funding that we deliver, supporting in the past year just under 2,000 individuals and project awards. And we're very proud in particular of the support that we're able to give to early career researchers. And I'll highlight that more in a moment. And we have a whole series of activities, events, conferences and so on. Please do look out for that. And again, just to highlight, the Future of the Corporation materials have been downloaded over 10,000 times. They really have made an enormous impact, and we're very proud of that. When we talk about the humanities and social sciences, we're covering a very broad range, as you'll understand. In most of the schemes I want to particularly highlight to you, we don't have specific thematic priorities. You tell us what you're interested in researching, what matters to you, and what difference that can make in the field that you're working in, and we're looking to support the very best of that research. All of the funding that we give is at postdoctoral level. I'm not sure if there are postgraduate students here today, but when you graduate with your PhD, please do think about the Academy as a source of funding. But we try to focus the research funding that we have at specific key career path moments. And I've highlighted one of them to you already, the support we give to early career researchers. We have a very strong emphasis on international engagement as part of what we offer, and we give a lot of support to individual researchers through a range of programs such as fellowships I'll mention briefly. The main program I want to highlight to you, as Stuart indicated, the small research grants. We receive large amount of money each year from the government through the Department for Business, Enterprise and Industrial Skills. And the Leverhulme Trust also give us a very large donation, so their name is honoured in the title of the programme as a whole. But individual partners that work with us are also specifically named, including, as Stuart says, BAFA, and I will highlight that more in a moment. These awards are small scale. They're not for your time. If you need time away from your research, there are other opportunities that we have. But what it does do is offer a very flexible award that allows you to design a program of research that will make a real difference in the particular field in which you're working. Many people apply for these as either a first grant opportunity for early career researchers, or as a pilot study, doing an idea, testing it out. We have a large number of awards we're able to make each year in this program, and that allows us to be open to some slightly more risky approaches in the different methodologies that people want to put forward for their grants. They are often worldwide in their scope. People can propose to work with international partners, and I'll highlight that more in a moment. And it has a very high priority for the Academy. There is almost no institution across the UK where you wouldn't be able to find someone who either currently holds one of our small grants or it has had one recently. The call for this is open just now. It literally opened just a few days ago. As Stuart mentioned, it's run twice a year, so there's another deadline coming in the autumn if this particular round doesn't suit you, the closing date on the 1st of June. Our partner funders for the programme. We're very proud of the association we have with BAFA as one of the partner funders. But for those of you who may be interested in working with colleagues in China, we have the Chinese Academy of the Social Sciences and Shanghai Academy of Social Sciences as specific partners, where there is a particular partnership with people, researchers who are working in institutes of those academies. So it's academy to academy partnership. For those who are interested in working with China more generally, we also have a partnership with a UK-based charity, the Sino-British Fellowship Trust, and they are also able to support research more broadly, working with partners in China. And we're also, among our other partner funders, very proud of our association with the Society for the Advancement of Management Studies, and we've literally just signed an agreement with EY, many of you know the accountancy firm, to offer, again, specific funding in the fields of artificial intelligence and more disruptive technologies. Our BAFA Small Grant Award holders, as Stuart mentioned, we've been running this programme now in partnership with BAFA for about 5 years. Among our award holders, we've had people who've been looking at risk, attitudes to risk, asset management, so accounting history, as well as Dr. Sylvia Gaia, who was our first award holder, I think, and Sylvia, I believe, is one of the special interest group leaders for your association. This is a slightly scary table. The numbers of applications we get through 2 rounds a year is over, around 800 per round, but we are able to make around 150 to 200 awards in each round of competition. The round that we've just concluded just now, we were very pleased to be able to offer nearly 200 awards as a result of the particular funding profile that we had this year. But normally the success rate is around 20%. That's quite good in general terms in academic research funding. I mentioned our support for early career researchers. We offer postdoctoral fellowships for those who are immediately just beyond their PhD, a career development opportunity to be able to go on to a second project developing out from work already done with their PhD. For those slightly further on, we have B.A. Wolfson Fellowships, who are people who are perhaps already holding a permanent academic position or have a long-term contract, but are still relatively early in their career. And again, that provides time bought out from their normal duty to be able to focus on research. And for those who are not already associated with the UK academic community, we have Newton International Fellowships. One of the most proud achievements we've had of the recent times was the launch of the Early Career Researcher Network. There may be other people, but I certainly know at least one person who I've met already today who's a member of the network. And this is to extend the support that the Academy gives, not just to those who are already funded by the Academy. We received money from the Wolfson Foundation to be able to launch a pilot, one of which is set in the Midlands of the UK. So those of you who are based here in Nottingham or in the Midlands area, please do think about this as a way of connecting, being able to get mentoring, support, engaging with the Fellows of the British Academy and with each other through this network. We also have launched a hub in the southwest of England, and as part of the pilot, we are also aiming to launch a third hub in Scotland, and we want then to roll it out much more widely. We also offer support for established academics. Those of you who are slightly further on in your career, don't worry, we do have support for you as well, to buy people out from their teaching and administration to focus on research through our mid-career fellowships or our senior research fellowships. We've also launched a new program of innovation fellowships, which was introduced for the first time in 2021-22, and I'm pleased to say we're going to be able to offer that again later this year. And this is very much intended as supporting creative and cultural engagement between people who are in academic life with those in business or elsewhere, locally, nationally, internationally, to be able to develop insights and innovation from the research, and particularly to focus on knowledge translation and exchange. And this was quite a new initiative for us. We had not previously offered specifically focused fellowships on knowledge exchange before. We're just about to announce, literally in the next couple of weeks, we think, the awards from the first round of the competition. And as I say, we have secured funding to continue with that. We also have a new program, a relatively new program of talent development awards, investing in UK talent and skills. And this again is particularly focused on people who might be interested in developing their quantitative or data science skills and methods, also on language skills and so on, where we think there are particular needs. This is a small scale funding similar to the small research grant. And again, we're definitely going to be able to offer that again this year. For those who are interested in very interdisciplinary research, crossing the boundary between social sciences and humanities across to the natural and physical sciences and engineering, we also have a partnership with our fellow academies, the Royal Society and Royal Academy of Engineering, to offer what are called APEX Awards, the Academy's Partnership in Excellence. And we were able to offer 8 awards in 2021. The current competition is being assessed and will be announced later this year, the results of that. The next competition will open in September this year. All of the information about all of these schemes, by the way, I'm running rapidly out of time, will be available. I have my contacts at the end. We can share slides, we can discuss. I can't stay myself, unfortunately, beyond my session, but I'm happy to hear from anyone afterwards who wants to follow up on this. We have a program of conferences, people who want to have a special conference, not just the next in a standard series of conferences, but a special interdisciplinary event of lasting significance. We're particularly interested in encouraging people to think about the British Academy for support for that. And because of the time that it takes to organise conferences, of course, the next call will actually be for conferences to take place in 2024. So there's plenty of time to the autumn for the deadline of the competition, and then into next year for the decisions. Many people don't realise that the Proceedings of the British Academy, our flagship publication, it's open to any researcher to propose a volume that is a collection of essays that might be published in that. You don't have to be an existing award holder of the Academy or have a prior connection to the Academy. Of course, collected volumes of essays don't necessarily arise from conferences. Often they do, but that's not a requirement, pre-requirement. The call is about to close for the current deadline, but the proposals, it runs pretty much continuously throughout the year. So if you've got that kind of collaborative major landmark project and publication that would drive forward the research in your area, then you might want to think about possible proposal to publish in our series. We offer much support through our international program as well. I don't have time to go into details, but since 2016, we have supported nearly 500 awards in total. Some of the highlighted fields that we've been able to support particular research in through the Global Challenges Research Fund were cities and urbanisation, conflict and violence, education and youth. The Academy places a very strong emphasis on equality, diversity and inclusion, and we are developing that as part of our strategic plan. Our current strategic plan finishes in 2022. We are about to launch later in the year our new strategic plan, and we very strongly expect that EDI will be a very major part of that going forward. And we have long gathered data. We're very proud of the existing inclusion of a range of scholars supported through the research funding that the British Academy gives. And we are keen to extend that, particularly to give extra support to disabled applicants and those who need caring responsibilities. That's a specific aim for us. Good applications, what are we looking for? The research quality, originality, very much being able to put together a strong proposal that will be clear in its methodology, that will set out what it is you're trying to achieve, why you're the right person with the right blend of skills and experience to make a success of what it is that you're putting forward. And because we're covering the whole range of humanities and social sciences, there is no single standard expected outcome at the end. Many people will propose journal publications, maybe a monograph if you're working in an area that's appropriate for, but there is no single right answer to that. But there will be an expectation that you will set out your plans for publication and dissemination. Applications submitted to us, we try to minimize the bureaucracy of the research process, the review process that we do. Most of the reviewing is done by fellows of the British Academy or by past award holders who are very helpful to us in carrying out support for the peer review process that we do. It's all proportionate to the scale of funding. We can make very quick decisions on our small grants. They're relatively small sums of money. The postdoctoral fellowship, it takes much longer because it's a major career-defining opportunity. The applications go through all our assessment process, ending up always with a final awarding committee. It's worth just emphasising briefly that all the decisions are made by academics for the Academy. There are no external participants making the final judgments on our schemes, and we are covered by a code of practice, of course. Very briefly, what makes a good application? Think carefully about the audience. As I say, they're all going to be academics. They'll not necessarily be specialists in your particular area, because the final awarding committee will, of course, be composed of academics from across the range of humanities and social sciences. Be concise. It's always good to be clear what you're trying to do. Avoid unexplained jargon. That's one of the key points I would make to you all. It's absolutely, you understand what you're talking about. You need to convince your peers you know what you're talking about. But the final awarding committee, I can emphasize again, will not necessarily be specialist in your area. So particularly in an abstract, it's worth emphasizing that, be clear about what you're trying to deliver, but not using unexplained jargon. Allocate time, all the rest of it. Read the scheme guidance notes. We do spend a lot of time writing them, not for our benefit, it's to help other people to be able to engage with the programme that we're doing. And I'll stop at that. And as I say, I'm delighted. I'm sorry I'm not able to be with you for longer today, but you can certainly contact me afterwards.
That's great, thanks.
Thank you.
Brilliant, Ken. Right, and just about on time as well. Thank you very much.
Just about.
Okay, so we're running obviously a little bit late. So we'll move straight on to the second speaker in this session then, Seema. Seema. Sorry, Seema Jamil-O'Neill. Are you ready?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. I will just bear with me 1 second whilst I try and upload my slides. Oh, hang on. If somebody could let me know if you can see my slides now.
Yeah, we've got you.
Yeah. Fabulous. And hopefully you can hear me too. Okay, well, good morning, just about everyone. I'm sorry I couldn't be there today, but isn't it wonderful that we've all learned through this lockdown phase how to engage with each other in this wonderful virtual environment. So I'm really pleased to be here speaking to you today. As mentioned earlier, my name is Seema Jamil-O'Neill. I am the Technical Director for the UK Endorsement Board, which again was mentioned earlier is a new body, and I will talk to you a little bit more about it in a second. But just to give you a little bit of background on who I am, and to reassure you that in fact I am not an academic. I am a chartered accountant by background, and I trained and worked as an auditor early on in my career, but have been working in standard setting for almost 16 years now. From 2017 to 2020, I was seconded to the civil service and worked as the head of accounting and reporting policy at the Department for Business, Industrial Strategy and Energy. And I was appointed as a technical director for the UK Endorsement Board in 2020. I think I will take a few moments to just give you a little bit of background on the UK Endorsement Board. So as you can see on this slide, it is a new body, and this slide is attempting to explain to you why it has come about. So just in case you weren't aware of it, from any IFRS that are used by UK companies to report on their annual financial statements have to be formally adopted for use. Before EU exit, this was a process that was undertaken in the EU So EFRAG was the body that actually provided advice on whether a international financial reporting standard was appropriate for use across the EU as a whole, but the actual final adoption decision was the Commission's. And it shows you, so if you see on the left-hand side of this slide, you can see that before EU exit, UK stakeholders all fed into the EFRAG process and the European Commission process. So for example, in my previous role at BEIS, I actually sat on the Commission committee that actually made decisions about formally adopting IFRS for use across the EU. And they had a loop into the IASB, so any post-implementation review work, etc., they went straight back into the IASB and influenced them through that route. So that was the pre-EU exit position. After EU exit, obviously the UK couldn't access that EU adoption process, and so a new framework had to be set up so that IFRS published by the IASB after EU exit could actually continue to be used by UK companies. So as a result of EU exit, some new legislation was passed by government, and it sets out the criteria for endorsement and adoption of new or amended IFRS. And that is essentially a replication of what the process was in the EU, but it's been onshored for UK purposes. The legislation also onshored and froze at that moment in time all of the existing EU adopted IFRS on the date of EU exit. And the other thing it did was it transferred the powers of the European Commission to endorse and adopt IFRS to the Secretary of State in the UK. And it could have stayed in that way. So you can see there were two statutory functions, in fact, set out in the legislation itself. And as you can see, the second one there is to actually formally adopt and amend IFRS where certain criteria are met. However, it also included an additional statutory function, which is to do with influencing the development of IFRS. And I will speak about that in a moment. But from a Secretary of State perspective, these functions sat with the Secretary of State, and it could have stayed within government, except that the UK government decided that it wanted to set up an independent body that would then formally and independently make decisions about adopting IFRS for use in the UK. So in that respect, the actual process is a little bit different to what was in place in the EU beforehand. So as a result of that decision, the UK Endorsement Board was set up by government with assistance from the regulator, which is the Financial Reporting Council. And both of those statutory functions, so to influence the development of IFRS and adopt any new and amended IFRS for use in the UK, were delegated to the UK Endorsement Board. And as a result of that delegation of powers, UK Endorsement Board is now the UK's standard setter for IFRS since the date of that delegation, which was about a year ago now, 11 months ago, in May 2021. So a little bit more, so on sort of the right-hand side a little bit, or in the center of this screen, you can see the position after EU exit. So after EU exit, UK stakeholders now come to the UKEB, and then we engage with the IASB on behalf of UK stakeholders. So which essentially brings me to influencing, which I mentioned earlier. And influencing is really a key activity for the board, because this ensures that UK views are heard, considered, and addressed early on in the standard development process. So we're not providing feedback to the IASB after the standard has been adopted, but in fact, we're doing it throughout the process of development. That actually ensures that any UK issues are dealt with as we go through the process of the standard being developed, so that the final standard is easier to adopt for use in the UK. From a UKEB perspective, of course, that requires a huge amount of proactive work, and our approach very much has been that we would aim to underpin that work with evidence and thorough research. Evidence gathering and research is hard-coded both in our due process, but those of you with an interest in processes can go and have a look at our draft due process handbook, which is on our website now, which sets out the need for significant amount of both desk-based research and proactive outreach with stakeholders. And I will speak a little bit more about the stakeholder outreach in a moment. So this slide sets out our main categories of the types of projects that we get involved in. One thing I should say, in fact, before I go into any of this detail, as a general rule, a lot of our projects are actually driven by the projects that are on the IASB's agenda. There are a couple of exceptions, but in the main, because we are looking to influence the IASB, we're looking to influence the development of new standards. A lot of our work is focused in that space. Sorry, my room is apparently booked. I think that would be okay. So just going to the actual projects themselves. So there are 3 different types of projects that are on our work plan. There are endorsement projects, influencing projects, and research projects. They are linked directly to our statutory functions. So endorsement is to do with standards that have been finalized by the IASB and published. We go through a process of testing them against the statutory criteria and making sure that so long as they we can meet those criteria, we can then formally adopt them for use in the UK. So in fact, hot off the press, I can tell you that the UKEB has formally today published its first set of standards that it's actually adopted for use in the UK. They are on our website, and this is the first set of standards that we've adopted. The next area of projects that we undertake is the influencing projects. Again, as I mentioned, these are the projects where the IASB is in the development phase of a new area of work, and we would be aiming to influence that work as far as is possible. And the last area of our work, and we have separately identified this, and this is something that the Secretary of State was keen that is delegated to the UKEB to do, is research work. So the UKEB would perform proactive research, which is essentially aimed at influencing the long-term development of IFRS. But we would also do proactive work on future developments that the UKEB thinks may be of relevance and should be brought to the attention of the international community. So going on to the next slide, stakeholder engagement. Now, a key part of our work is stakeholder engagement. And the reason we go about doing that is to actually understand both the perspectives of UK stakeholders, so we can actually reflect them in the international arena, but also so that we can test any proposals coming from the IASB or ones we might be putting forward with stakeholders to make sure that they work in the real world. So we may do that via field testing, or we might do that through other quantitative or qualitative research, or via some advisory groups, which I will speak about in a moment. But we do know this much, that we cannot represent UK views without stakeholder engagement. So in all of our projects, there is a huge amount of emphasis on this. So as I mentioned, I mean, we've been in place, the UKEB has been in place for about 11 months now. And these are all of the influencing projects that we have completed in that time period. I won't go into a huge amount of detail because we've sort of done the work on those, but I just wanted to show you the amount of work that we go through. And this was during a phase when the UKEB was still in its setup phase. We only expect to do more in the near future. So a little bit more here on active UKEB projects. So again, you will see they are set in those three different project categories. So the big endorsement project that we've got currently underway is to do with IFRS 17, which is the standard on insurance contracts. It's a standard that's been in development for 25 years. It always makes me smile when I say that, because that's almost the entire length of somebody's career. But these are particularly complex issues, and it's taken quite a long time to bring the international community to agree to a single standard. And the ISB issued it in 2017. The EU adopted it late last year, and we are in the final throes of actually formally adopting it for use in the UK. The UKEB project for adoption has been 2 years in the making, but we expect a decision on adoption in the coming months, and will certainly be ahead of the implementation date, which is 1st of January 2023. But I'm sure you're more interested in the influencing projects and the major research projects, so I'll speak a little bit more about that. So influencing projects, as I mentioned earlier, most of the IESB's agenda tends to be on our agenda as well. If you're interested to see what's on our agenda, in fact, the work plan is on our website. But highlights of some of the work that we are undertaking or gearing up to undertake. So there is one to do with IFRS 6, which is to do with exploration and evaluation of mineral resources. There is another one which isn't mentioned here, which is to do with primary financial statements, and the ISB's got an active work program on that, and we are actively influencing there as well. The other two are in fact to do with sustainability reporting, and you may have heard of the recent activity in this space. The IFRS Foundation has set up a body that will be taking forward the work on sustainability standards. They have issued 2 exposure drafts, and the UKEB has been asked by government to consider the overlap with IFRS and respond to ISSB on that space as well. So we've got a project that we will be undertaking here as well. And we expect this work to continue in the near future. And then research projects, goodwill and impairment has been one of the sort of narrow scope research projects, I would say. And intangibles is the one that is sort of the more significant research project that's on our agenda at the moment. So a little bit more on the research projects themselves, which I'm sure is of much higher interest to the audience today.
Seema, sorry, I'm just conscious, a little bit conscious of time. I know we started a bit late, but I'm conscious that we'd like to get some questions in. So if you want to wind up, and then we'll get some questions for you from the floor as well. Thanks.
Absolutely. So just very high level, the intangibles project, we're in the process of performing detailed interviews and reviews of annual reports, etc., but expect to put various milestone reports out over the coming weeks and months. But Matt is in the room and he can provide you with a lot more detail on that. Goodwill, similarly, we are close to the end of that project. So that may be one that you watch with interest to see how we go about doing work there. And the last thing I really wanted to highlight is that we are about to set up standing advisory groups. The advert for the advisory group is actually, we are looking for applications, and the applications close on the 19th of April. And we're looking for a diverse range of background, so accounting expertise, economics expertise, or other areas that are of allied interest, we'll be very keen to hear from you. More information on our website, which sort of brings me to how do you get involved if you're not, and keep up to date. So there is all of this information here of how to get involved in this space. And again, can I reiterate, Matt is at the conference today, so if you've got anything further you would like to discuss that doesn't come up in the questions, please do speak to him. So thank you very much for your time.
That's great. Thanks very much, Seema, and thanks very much for speeding up there at the end. Much appreciated. Two things. One is we've seen the adverts, so they're out on LinkedIn. For anybody who's on LinkedIn and is interested in joining or engaging with the UKEB through an advisory group, go and look on the LinkedIn pages. You'll get more information there, as well as talking to Matthew. And Subhan, can I ask you to be the person with the roving mic? Terrible time for spoolerism. Okay, and just to let everybody know as well, we actually have got people online, so we do need the microphone so as they can hear. There's nearly 20 people actually logged online, as well as everybody that we've got in the room here. And we'll just have 5 minutes of questions before we move on to the next session. So indications, yeah. Okay, we'll start with Richard. And then Hafiz, and we'll take them two at a time like we did yesterday.
Thank you very much. Richard McVie from, is it on? Richard McVie from LSE. I used to be on the academic advisory panel for FRC, and so I welcome that you've established a formal advisory group for the area that we're interested in, but I just can't help resisting making the comment, and I don't even expect you to respond, which is the endorsement process is just an unnecessary burden imposed by Brexit. We didn't need it. We could have done what Canada do and just adopt everything IFRS do. Why do we have to flog through a lot of unnecessary hundreds of pages of comment which aren't going to change anything anyway?
Okay. Thank you, Richard. And then if we can ask for Hafiz then as well. And we'll come back to you then at that point, Seema. Sorry, Hafiz. Anybody online, if you have got a question or a comment, please stick it in the chat now. We'll have about a minute to do it so as we can bring it to the floor then. Sorry, Hafiz.
Thank you. This is a question actually to Seema about IFRS 6, which is an area I'm very active researching. My understanding is that ISB has closed this chapter, the chapter of IFRS 6, recently in January 22, when they changed the status of IFRS 6 from interim to permanent. So I'm just wondering what are you doing on it at the moment, because the status has changed. Thank you.
Okay, Seema, do you want to? Richard doesn't expect a response, but if you want to comment on either of those.
Well, can I just start by saying, lovely to see you, Richard. Yes, I think this was all, the endorsement process was in fact consulted on, although not formally, during EU exit, and on balance, I think there were a lot of people who shared your view, Richard, but on balance, I think it was felt that we needed some form of actual process to go through. Our aim is, and certainly the UKEB's aim is, that when through sort of the influencing work, that we remove all of the barriers to endorsement as far as is possible, so that it's a much more streamlined and more straightforward process. But there was a general feel that sort of UK stakeholders should have a final say before we actually formally adopt something. I'm not sure I can add any more than that. And I know, I thank you for not expecting a response, but I hope that helps. In terms of IFRS 6, if I could respond to that, yes, we have also noted that the ISB decided to conclude this, but we have in fact pointed out to the IASB that there are some significant problems with the decisions that they've taken, and our aim would be to actually have a little bit more of a detailed discussion with them on this space. So we are in contact with them already, and we are going to be having an ongoing dialogue with them. And this is one of the points of this body, in fact, is to actually maintain that dialogue with the IASB. So they may take a view at an international level that this is not an issue, but we can highlight to them that from a UK perspective, where we've got an awful lot of, for example, mining and extraction companies that are listed on the stock exchange. And in fact, the standard was an interim standard. They only came up with some interim positions there. It does need further work on that to actually address the needs of investors in those companies. So I think our aim is to actually have those, what may be slightly uncomfortable conversations with the IASB staff and board members, but this is part of our role. And Matt can give you more detail and a particular area of interest as well. So do speak to him, please.
Brilliant. Thanks, Seema. I think we're right up against the time, but I think if there's one burning question from the floor for Ken about his presentation earlier. If not, as Ken said, there's plenty of all the details of how to contact the British Academy are on the website, and also as well, obviously, with the UKEB. And Matt is going to stay around for lunch and for this afternoon sessions as well. So I'd just like to thank very much both speakers for this session. Very informative session. I hope that colleagues got a lot out of it in terms of funding and impact. And we'll thank them, and then we'll have a short couple of minutes just while we're handing over to Gloria and Tevan for the rest of the plenary. So thanks very much.